You've undoubtedly heard about Super 8, the dramatically improved 8mm film format.
Here, try it. See how easy it is.
Drop another one in, you're all set.
So this week, why not make your family movie stars?
Okay, what's up guys? Joey Shanks here once again, and we're gonna be doing a two-part series dealing with Super 8 cameras, shooting on Super 8, going old school, and yeah, actually capturing some stuff on film. Everybody has a camera nowadays, and you wanna do something that will separate yourself from everybody else, and this is definitely one of those ways.
Even if you've never snapped a picture before, you'll make exciting movies indoors or out.
Yard sales, grandparents, attics. I've found tons of Super 8 cameras at thrift shops in the past. First, we'll talk about the older 8mm cameras.
To load it, you drop in the film and click it shut. See?
It didn't take your standard Super 8 cartridge that the Super 8 cameras do now. If you find a camera and you open it up and it looks something like this isn't the camera that you're gonna be able to shoot with.
With a Kodak Ectosound movie camera, it's as easy as this.
What you want to look for here is that it takes a Super 8 cartridge, like so. So if you were at a thrift shop, you would want to bring with you some batteries. Usually these cameras take 4 AA batteries. You know, pop them in and see if the motor worked. This one's really quiet, but I can hear it working. Listening to this one, it sounds a little funky. If you can hear that, that sounds pretty smooth. And it sounds clean. You want it to sound clean. With some of these cameras, the light meter sometimes runs off of other batteries. This camera actually needs smaller little guy batteries for the light meter. Weird kind of smaller battery. So you see these guys at the bottom? This one, the smaller icon here, that will test your light meter batteries, and this will test your grip handle batteries for your motor. The light meter, if it doesn't have the right batteries, it won't work, and that could cause problems when you're shooting and you're having an auto and the auto meter isn't working. So another thing to be mindful of. Checking all the settings on it, making sure through the viewfinder, the lens looks pretty good, everything's in focus. The lens cap needs to be off though, that's always a good thing. The light meter is kind of working, we'll get into more of that later. Most of these were built with zoom capabilities. This tele and the wide. So obviously wide is essentially a zoom out, tele for telephoto, zoom in. And what you also need to look for is the better cameras will give you the option to shoot at 24 frames a second. The cameras that were made to do 24 frames a second are just a little more on the high end. Also, look for anything that gives you the option to do a manual exposure or a manual aperture, like this Canon one does. So I can, leave it wide open, or I can, close it down to like an f/22 if I want to. Even if your camera doesn't necessarily have manual exposure, a lot of times you have the option to tweak the exposure a little bit. So a lot of times you'll see a spotlight and a backlight setting. So it's pretty much giving you the ability to underexpose or overexpose a stop. So this gives you a little bit of manual control, but not much.
Super 8 film gives you 50% more picture area than regular 8mm for bigger, sharper movies on your screen.
Okay, so this is your basic Super 8 cartridge. The great thing about Super 8 is it's really compact, and you just pop it in. You don't have to worry about loading it in the dark. You can even take it out. All that would be exposed are these 7 frames right here. Standard 50 feet of film. These cameras were actually meant to shoot at 18 frames a second. That was normal. And 24 frames a second would be considered slow motion, which is kind of funny. And a lot of times there's options where you can film at 12 frames a second. When shooting at 24 frames a second with 50 feet of film, you have about 2.5 minutes worth of footage that you can shoot. A little over 3 minutes if you're shooting at 18 frames a second. A lot of people don't realize that only certain types of films you can send in, get it exposed, and they'll send you the reel back, and then you can hook it up to an 8mm projector and watch it on a screen.
The projectionist gives the signal and the curtains are closed. The assistant turns out the light and the show has begun.
If you were wanting to shoot on color, the only thing that they can do when you send it off to get it processed is that they're going to digitize it for you, which is great because that's what I want to do. But if you were wanting to get it back and project it on a projector, and then you could set up your camera and film the screen and then essentially kind of digitize it your own way, which is cheaper as well, is you would need a reversal, black and white reversal film, which is cheaper. So we're gonna shoot one roll of the reversal just so we can hook it up to a projector and check it out. But that's just something to be mindful of, that not every film stock you'll be able to get back and project. So this one had a really nice remote trigger switch. And you know, this looks like an 8 to 10 foot cord. You can plug in right here, remote control. This is my neutral switch. So now with it plugged in, it doesn't work. And have it on RL. I now can kind of control it from a distance. These remote shutter triggers. So right here, next to the handle, or next to the trigger, you can thread it in. You can control it that way too. So if you were to plug in here and do the same thing, it's taking just one picture. Some cameras come with an open and close option for the eyepiece. Shooting something via remote, you want to close the eye hole. Some light would get in here and create what they call ghosting. This one has it. This guy does not have it, so you would almost want to just like put some black gaffer's tape over top if you were doing a remote. A little add-on lens that will make it a smidge more wider. And you do the conversion. 7.5 millimeters to a Super 8 camera is roughly like 50 millimeters to your normal full frame HDSR. But you really essentially have a 50 to 300 millimeter lens. Just make sure you get the threading right. Instead of a 50, it'll give you about maybe like a 40 millimeter. But I would avoid zooming like all the way in, because you'll see a lot of distortion around the edges if you use that. So. Every time you're about to shoot a roll, you take like a baby toothbrush and you just kind of clean the gate a little bit, and the gate is this opening where the film opens up and is exposed. And you just kind of just run it up and down once, and that will, you know, clean out some of the hairs that may be there. To really make sure that your viewfinder is in focus, you just turn the dial, and if you can see the light meter numbers are in focus, just get it where it matches your vision. If you want to go old school, and because you're just never quite sure how well they'll focus by doing it through the eyepiece. If you really want to get it right, for the most part, I would consider bringing a tape measure with you and actually measuring off stuff. Well, you always want to make sure you're on off when you're not using it. This guy, there's an L, that's for lock. And if you had this on N for normal, it would be using the light meter, and eventually your battery would drain. Especially with this one, because it has these smaller batteries it takes for the light meter. If you were to leave it on like this for maybe even a night or two, it could drain all of that battery. When you're about to film, you sometimes want to make sure that the film is turning, because I'm a paranoid guy when I'm filming. I'll make a little mark with like a Sharpie on here. I'll just make a little mark here with the film facing towards the lens. So let's just run a little bit here. All right, so I just squeezed it for like a second. So let's take this out, and you see the black is gone. So you know that your camera is actually turning the film. The film reader right here, it reads to 50, which for 50 feet. This is just reading as once a cartridge is in. It's not necessarily reading the film going through it. It's starting to count the number of cycles it does. So if you were to take this cartridge out, shooting halfway through, and it would reset to 0. So just something to be mindful of. When you shoot all 50 feet, this, you'll see at the very end, will say exposed. Hey Nala, you wanna get in the episode? You wanna get in the episode? Super 8 cameras were made to take film that was balanced for 3200 degrees Kelvin. And these Super 8 cameras have filters built into them that think you are gonna be shooting in the daytime a lot. So there's a little orange I think they call it an 85 filter, that are in these cameras. So with this one right here, you see this little sundial. That means it's made for the sun. And if you were to flip this down to this little bulb, it takes out the orange 85 filter. You see that? See that orange filter? Disengaging? So that is the 85. Now this is something important because sometimes these 85 filters can get corroded and you're throwing something in front of the lens. So there's always the ability of something bad with that filter to mess up the exposure or the shot. So what a lot of people do is always shoot with the bulb mode on, the indoor mode, and then they would get their own orange 85 filter to put on so they don't have to worry about having it engaged all the time. There's even a spot inside here. This guy right here will disengage the orange filter. So you can see this notch right here, this guy. So that fits perfectly where it goes right between this switch for the 85 filter.
Each film cartridge has this indexing slot that tells the camera all about the film speed.
Okay, this is the 7219 stock. I believe the other one that we've used that's better in sunlight, this actually did not have an indentation right here. This was just clean all the way through. So it automatically disengages the 85 filter. Even if you had this film in and it was engaged, your indoor-outdoor dial would be bypassed. A way to get around this, you would probably have to cut out a little an indentation on your own so it won't bypass the 85 filter automatically. So hopefully that's not too confusing, but that's definitely something you need to be mindful of.
Here's a reel of home movies. Suppose these were your movies. That'd be worth a fortune, wouldn't it?
Oh, yes.
All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the first part of this 3-part series dealing with Super 8 film. For part 2, we're gonna be going outside, shooting a test roll in a few different environments. We're going to make sure that the camera's working properly, that the exposure looks good, that our light meter's working good, and just stuff that you need to check with the camera when you're out in the field. Then we're gonna go through the process of actually sending it out to get it processed, developed, digitized, and all that, because that's kind of half the battle, is just knowing how to do that. And then for part 3, we're gonna be dealing with shooting a little short film that our cameraman Kyle Platts wrote. It's only a 2 to 3 minute page script. If you dig kind of the old school, old world filmmaking techniques, I have a lot of other videos. There's a front screen projection technique that Stanley Kubrick used in 2001: A Space Odyssey. I did one on that. We even did a film versus digital comparison with stop motion animation. Thanks again for watching, guys, and more soon to come, and we'll see you next time. Later.